Alright everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Sci-Fi Sunday on this channel where we talk about all things sci-fi. We have to talk about the news that Marvel has been quietly canceling projects. So let's jump right into it. Okay, before we get into the Marvel has been canceling projects, there is a bit of news that came up recently that I thought would be interesting. Sam Raimi, a fan, had inquired about whether or not they would get to see Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 4 like we were promised, and apparently he didn't say no. This has sparked all kinds of interest in that project all over again, and Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man may be back on the market. You might remember recently where the actor who played Sandman was doing an interview and said that he thought that at some point the Spider-Man 4 with Tobey Maguire would actually happen. This is exciting news because if we are getting that, this could be Sony's Spider-Man. Sony's Spider-Man could in fact be Tobey Maguire. And this would solve the problem of them trying to get Tom Holland back in and out of Marvel constantly. He could stay in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and Tobey Maguire could in fact be the Marvel version of Spider-Man in Sony. And that's not a bad idea. I'm actually all for that. I think that would be really great. And that news kind of has been going around, and I thought I would share that with you. Now let's jump into our main topic, and our main topic is that Marvel has been quietly canceling things, and we're going to explain why. Bob Iger commented recently on making the tough calls to actually cancel several Marvel projects. And this is what he had to say. It's not an easy thing, but you got to make those tough calls. We actually made those tough calls. We have not been public about it, but we've killed a few projects already that we just didn't feel were strong enough. Now, he goes on to talk about the whole superhero fatigue, and he talks about that in a way that I found to be actually really unique and cool and clever, because he basically said what a lot of movie fans already know. So this is his comments about the fatigue. A lot of people think it's audience fatigue. It's not audience fatigue. They want great films. And if you build it great, they will come. And there are countless examples of that. Some of ours and some of others. Oppenheimer is a perfect example of that. Just a fantastic film. Focus is really important. We reduced the output of Marvel, both number of films they make and the number of TV shows. And that really becomes critical. But I feel good about the team. I feel good about the IP we're making. So this is actually very cool news, because this tells us that they are getting it, that they do know where they have made a few mistakes, and they actually plan on correcting these. I think this is an awesome idea. I think that this is something that needed to be done. Sure, Marvel seemed to get a bit oversaturated with the whole thing when it came to the multiverse. The multiverse is a very confusing story, and it would lose a couple people here and there. You would lose people in thinking about what could be. So what projects would they cancel in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Let's take a look at what projects probably got canceled. Okay, so I'm going to break down what projects we've kind of heard might get canceled, and then I'm going to give you my opinion and talk a little bit about it. So here we go. First off, the Internals. The Internals 2 is probably going to get canceled. Armor Wars is probably going to get canceled. A-Force is probably going to get canceled. All the small little Disney Plus movies that they were doing, all the specials, are probably getting canceled. Silver Surfer's special is getting canceled. There was an Agatha spinoff that was already kind of confirmed because it was a spinoff of WandaVision as well. And that was called The Witch's Road. And that was apparently going to be canceled as well. Then you have the Ghost Rider special and the Sentry Origin special. All of those things are things that people are saying are more than likely canceled. Now, why is this important? Why would these things be canceled? So let's kind of break down each one and why it's probably canceled. So first off, you have the Eternals. The Eternals came at a time when Marvel didn't have the rights to use mutants. So being that they didn't have the rights to use mutants, they had to come up with something. The Eternals is a very similar team. So with Eternals being a very similar team to the X-Men having these powers, they figured that that would be an easy replacement if they weren't able to get rights to the X-Men. And then, of course, that deal went through, and now they do have rights to use the X-Men. This changes everything as far as movies go, because now they are able to use the X-Men, but they have introduced the Eternals. And they've introduced them with a lot of questions. A lot of questions in this movie deserve to be answered. And we are going to get the answers just probably through other movies. Some of these characters are going to probably be appearing in other movies rather than where they started off. You won't get an Eternals 2, but you'll get something with the Eternals appearing in it. The X-Men are the more popular property, so you want to go with the one that's going to be more popular. Then you have Armor Wars. Armor Wars was basically Iron Man without Iron Man. That's what I've heard a lot of people saying. Yes, it's true. Iron Man without Iron Man describes the Armor Wars. And with that show, Rhodey being in charge, Rhodey is a great character, and he's a great supporting character. He's been a great supporting character in the MCU for several years. And taking him out of that element and putting him in a starring role, I think the actor could do amazing, but it was going to start off as a TV show. Then they realized the budget was too high. So then they went and were talking about making it a movie. Well, that has apparently fallen through too. Then you have the A-Force. The A-Force was kind of the female version of the Avengers, and it just wasn't going to happen after the whole failure of Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel did okay. It's a pretty good film, and I urge you to check it out. It's not as bad as the press says it is, but it wasn't the biggest blockbuster that they were going to have, and therefore they kind of had to rethink whether or not they were going to have that team happen, and apparently they probably won't. Then you have the Silver Surfer special. The Silver Surfer special was going to tell the story of our favorite Silver Surfer, the Silver Surfer we all know. And with the movie kind of introducing one that we don't know first, that project has kind of apparently been canceled as well. You have the Witch's Road, and the Witch's Road was going to be describing where exactly Wanda ended up after the events of Multiverse of Madness, because kind of that whole thing, this is where witches go when they die. And she is, for all intents and purposes, supposed to be dead in the MCU. That won't stick, of course. We know she's going to come back. But this series explaining exactly where she was and possibly her origin coming back to us didn't need to be told. It was probably going to have one of her sons start looking for her like it happened in the comic books. But that didn't need to happen. It didn't need to happen, so they're not going to make that happen more than likely. Then you had a proposed Ghost Rider series, which also is not going to happen. And that one I'm okay with, because Ghost Rider has had his movies, and he's had a lot of really great movies come out. He's done really amazing. But I think we need a new Ghost Rider in the MCU, and giving them their movie would be the better way to go. Then you have Sentry, and I feel that having the Sentry character have an origin is not as important as they thought, because apparently they were going to do an origin story explaining where he was, how he got his powers, before they introduce him. And that apparently is no longer happening. Then there's the talk of all the small shows, the little small Disney Plus specials that they were going to air. And they talked about kind of cutting back on those. And I think that's probably smart as well, because a lot of these stories require a lot more than just putting them on TV. A lot of these stories do require people to actually pay attention, to actually go and see them at the theater and take them in on the big screen. I feel that that's a necessity at this point for a lot of these characters, for a lot of these stories. And that's kind of why they've done this, I believe. They want to make Marvel everything that it can be. Make mine Marvel, the old comic book saying used to go. And I think that's what they're trying to do. So make sure you leave us that comment in the comment box below, letting us know what you think. Make sure you share this video with all of your friends. They're definitely going to want to be a part of the conversation. Make sure you hit that like button. It's free, it helps the channel, and we really appreciate it. Miko says we need more subscribers. You don't want to disappoint Miko, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell while you're down there so you don't miss a single video we do. And then friends, at the end of the day, I know it, you know it, and Miko knows it. Fandom is family.